Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Road to Indy TV app or the Road to Indy TV YouTube channel, maybe USF2000.com. Whatever you're doing right now, if you're not here trackside at Road America and watching online, get a chance to see these drivers, the very first rung of the Road to Indy, rolling onto the track here for qualifying session number one. My name is Rob Howden alongside Eric Mueller as we get set to give you the action here. A 30-minute qualifying window, 20 minutes of green flag action, and the drivers having to circulate around this very challenging racetrack at Road America. Long straightaways, very challenging corners, some off-camber, the carousel tough, the Canada corner. Just so much character here at Road America, and excited to be essentially to the midway point of the season here with the Cooper Tires USF2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. And Eric, onto the racetrack. You know this track probably better than anybody here in terms of the media center, having called all the races here at Road America. This is a tough one. These young drivers in the Road to Indy, the very first step, need to get a feel for this track, because if all goes well, they'll be racing here for the next maybe couple of decades.
Absolutely. Adaptability, really the name of the game here. How fast can you adapt to the rapidly changing track conditions? We talked about it in the practice sessions earlier today, Rob, about how we've got all the different rubber. We've got, right now it's just fairly much Cooper tires that have been laid down all weekend with the Radical Cup. Their tires, a little bit different rubber compound as well. But right now, this is probably the most grip that these drivers are going to have all weekend on pretty stationary Cooper rubber that's built up into this racetrack. Obviously, this racetrack throughout the weekend evolves once we get the Firestone rubber down from the primary and the alternate for the NTT IndyCar Series. This racetrack dramatically changes from a grip standpoint. So right now, you got to get while the getting's good. This is the first qualifying session of the weekend for these drivers, and really track conditions throughout the day are going to change. We've had sunny skies this morning. Now we've got some cloud cover. It's a little bit different track than we saw just an hour and a half ago.
I would say, though, that it would be the most predictable, right, that it's going to be. As you said, that once the IndyCar rubber goes down, even when the Indy Lights drivers get down and start throwing their rubber down with the high horsepower that those cars have, things will be much different when the drivers roll out. We'll be done before that, luckily. Our second qualifying session for USF2000 is set to go this afternoon at 1:30. So we'll be all done and dusted with the day here by 2 o'clock. That'll open up for the Indy Lights and IndyCar drivers to get back on racetrack. But once these drivers get back in the morning, things will be much different. We talked earlier today during the practice sessions as well about the fact that this is a session that is crucial for these drivers to get all 20 minutes. You don't want to make a mistake here, drive off the racetrack, damage your car. If you find yourself not getting a lap time here, not getting a quality lap time in this opening qualifying session, that's when you find yourself in trouble, Eric. We know starting up front is key. Starting at the tail, you can come to the front, but man, you have trouble in qualifying. You set yourself on the back foot for the entire weekend.
We've seen times this weekend in that practice session. Fraser, that 92 car, 2:11.29. That's kind of the benchmark of what we've seen. That's probably been the fastest lap we've seen officially here this weekend. Not some of the tests that we saw yesterday morning, but that practice session, a good indicator of who's going to have speed and who's going to be consistent. But again, now it comes to, when do you make the choice to go to fresh tires? Do you do it now? Do you wait later in the session? Do you wait until race time?
Well, and this is the thing, right? 2 qualifying session, 2 races, essentially 3 sets of sticker Cooper tires. So, do you hold a set potentially? Like, how fast am I on one set of tires? Can I go out and do 2 to 3 laps and so hold those ones for the race? Do I want to double up on tires? Drivers out on fresh tires to start this qualifying session, so they're on fresh rubber, the sticker Coopers. What do you do midway through? It's crazy. It's a 20-minute session. Some of the racetracks that we run, they're a little over 2 miles, Eric. You can do, 5 minutes or let's say 8 minutes, make the change, and another 9 or 10 minutes at the end of the session. Here, the laps are so long. Even your out lap is, almost 3 minutes long. A 2:11, something like that, we're going to see for fast times. 2:11.5 being laid down by Nikita Johnson to get things underway. You don't have the luxury of a good 5-lap stint then coming in. That's the biggest issue here. Really, 3 to 4 laps if you're going to pit halfway through.
And the other thing that you want to kind of avoid is a little bit of a traffic and to get kind of hung up behind maybe somebody, aero, not as much of a deal here in USF2000, but you still have to work with the aero, and you still are going to get some air movement. Grip loss on the front tucked up behind somebody, you've got to build yourself a little bit of a gap and get some clear track ahead of you, just to kind of help yourself out there. Now, you want the toe a little bit down the straightaways here, but in the corners, you still want to get some air out of the wings.
And the key is to try to be with somebody with comparable speed, right? You don't want somebody who's significantly slower than you unless you're going to get that draft and pull by them. Otherwise, you're going to drag them along. They may slow you up, whatever it may be. You want someone who's kind of got the same speed you can use as a rabbit to close up on them. Right now, up top, Nikita Johnson, his debut weekend here in USF 2000, just 14 years of age. A driver running for VRD Racing. Johnson, one of the top drivers as well in the USF Juniors program, the driver out of Gulfport, Florida, again with VRD Racing. VRD having a tremendous couple of weeks in Road to Indy and USF Juniors competition, sweeping the action at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the British driver Alex Quinn, and then sweeping the USF Juniors race just last weekend at Virginia International Raceway with Florida driver Alessandro De Tullio. So Dan Mitchell's operation looking to keep that momentum going here at Road America. He leads the way right now with Nikita Johnson. Michael D'Orlando, coming off a victory in the Freedom 75, goes to P1 now with a 111.179. D'Orlando won on the oval at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Last year's series runner-up, comes in as the point leader, 17 points ahead of Miles Rowe, 19 points ahead of Jagger Jones, and 25 points ahead of Billy Fraser. Early in the session, Jace Denmark now goes up front. The winner from St. Petersburg goes P1 for Pabst Racing in the number 23. Billy Fraser, the New Zealander, in the number 92 for Exclusive Autosport, now in second. Michael D'Orlando third. Miles Rowe fourth. Nikita Johnson fifth. Right there on the screen, the number 92 of Billy Fraser, I believe, tucked up behind Jace Denmark. So those two drivers working together down through turn number 3 now. And again, key here, bringing these Cooper tires up to temperature in a particular way. You don't want to go and hammer them. You want to take care of those tires, not slide the car around. When the car's sliding, the car's using up the tires. So be really deliberate with your turn in. Don't overdrive the car over the first couple of laps, because there is that window. Every track's a bit different depending on the abrasiveness of the racetrack. How long do those tires take to get into that window where they give the optimum grip? And when they get to that optimum grip, they better be at the right tire pressure as well. So that's kind of the balance that the mechanics have to set up, Eric. The driver then has to do the job, but first and foremost, lining up the tire pressure with that lap.
You're looking at turn 7 right now. We talked a little bit about that earlier in the practice sessions as well. But turn 7 is one of those places where you can plus or minus 0.3, just the way that you approach that apex entry and exit and getting the power down. You're kind of in a downhill banked corner, and it's not much. It's very slight banking, if anything, but it sure feels like you're going downhill at the center of the apex. And when you get on the power, you kind of cross the ridge in the racetrack and get out to that rumble strip, and it's really easy to give up a couple of tenths just if you've got to pedal it enough.
Yeah, it's such a crucial corner. We talked about it earlier today. The pass you make down in Canada Corner, turn number 12, you set up coming out of turn number 7, down through 7, and then down into turn number 8. Just a crucial part of the racetrack to really capitalize on having big speed at the end of the kettle bottom, so you can make that move to the inside.
You look at a lot of the corners here at Road America as well. Turn 14 right now, you see the darker asphalt, so there's a little bit of a transition, and you see the dark strip just beyond the aspect of that newer asphalt. There's a little bit of a bump there, and you'll see everybody kind of go all the way to driver's left to try to get around that bump. If you see somebody trying to dive to the inside, you can get that car upset a little bit, you lose grip. You don't want to do that here in the qualifying session. We got 3 cars coming to pit lane now.
It looks to me like the entire Jay Howard driver development crew coming into pit lane to make changes there. That would be their lineup of Danny Dzelski, Jorge Garcias in as well, and driver making his debut here in USF 2000, Ivagoras Papasavas. So he's into pit lane here as well. So the driver development, the Jay Howard driver development cars coming in. They're right actually in front of us here across us in the PA, and indeed sticker Cooper tires set to go for those drivers right now. Garcia sitting in the 9th spot, Dzelski only 14 years of age in 12th, and Papasavas back at 16th. It's still Jace Denmark on top with a 210.850. Billy Fraser P2, 211.158. Michael D'Orlando into 4th. He's come into pit lane as well to make those changes. And what did I say? The thing about Road America, you used to have the track is so long, the outlap is so long, it's a 30-minute time window. but we get 20 minutes of green flag racing. If we go all 20, we'll shut down before the 30 comes. The 30, of course, just in case we go red or yellow, give them an opportunity to get more green flag racing. So 3 laps, and we've already got guys into pit lane, so puts the pressure on drivers. Get out there, warm the tires up, 2 laps to lay down a lap, come back in, put new rubber on, and we'll go back at it again.
You know, Jace Denmark having a season where he started out the season with a bang, outside front row starting spot, finishes with the win at St. Petersburg, finishes that podium, starts in the pole, finishes second, back-to-back podiums, and then the bottom kind of drops off.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so they're trying to find a little bit of redemption here as we get towards the middle of the season.
Yeah, let's say this again. He had a really rough run at Barber Motorsport Park, 11th and 18th. Didn't get a great start to the event at Indianapolis, the triple header on the road course, but then turned it around and was able to come through with a couple of 4th place finishes, then 4th as well on the oval at Indianapolis Raceway Park. So definitely a bounce back for Jace Denmark into his groove. And Pabst Racing, of course, we talk about the fact that this facility is their home track based in Oconomowoc, and they want to do well here. Jace Denmark P1, Miles Rowe in 3rd, so Pabst Racing currently 1st and 3rd. We've seen drivers into pit lane. Nikki Hayes down here as well for Cape Motorsports in the number 5. Here comes the VRD drivers as well, the 17 and Nikita Johnson into pit lane. Trey Burke as well in the Joe Dueling Autosport Kerbagajanian machine. Here comes turn 3 as well, the 32 of Christian Weir. So a number of drivers into pit lane. It's still Denmark, Fraser, Rowe, D'Orlando, and Burke, your top 5. Good qualifying effort for Trey Burke right now. Burke's a great story. Here's a kid out of Texas back in 2020, said, man, you know what, I'm a dirt racer. He ran junior sprints, some of the 360, I believe, sprint cars. I was like, no, you know what, guys like AJ Foyt are my heroes. You know, I want to run dirt, but I also want to go to Indy. So out of the dirt, throws himself into single car effort last year and was really drinking water through the fire hose, right? Trying to learn what it was like. His 2nd year in the program right now, he has definitely stepped things up to another level, which has been great for Trey Burke. Currently P5 in the order. 7 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Who else will we see in pit lane? Burke, Johnson, Weir, and Hayes in pit lane right now. Jace Denmark, I do not believe that he's headed to pit lane as if he had a 2:10.850 his fast lap. Fraser back by just 73 thousandths of a second. He is P2. Now here's the thing. If you're up top like this with 7 minutes to go, do you pit? Or do you keep those fresh tires for one of the races? Or do you double dip in the second qualifier this afternoon? The key is you got to be smart. Figure out how you want to manage these tires. Will sticker tires be good to go on Saturday? Or does rain come, potentially, and we're on the treaded tires? Man, there's just such a... It's crazy in terms of strategy here this weekend anytime you have precipitation.
You know, and it's in the forecast, but it's much higher percentage today than the rest of the weekend. But you know, we may be able to get out of qualifying and kind of avoid that tomorrow. But I think the story here is you've got both Miles Rowe and Michael D'Orlando, top 2 in the points, sitting 2nd row right now for race 1. And we talked quite a bit earlier this morning about how qualifying here at Road America is so critical, because you got to keep yourselves out of the chaos, and you don't want to create your own chaos by sitting mid-grid.
Agreed. Get the best laps you can here in qualifying. Make sure you play the cards right. Stay out of traffic. You don't want to get in front of a car. It's a little slower than you. Here comes Billy Fraser. He's into pit lane in the number 92. Only 5 minutes and 45 seconds left. That just feels late for me. I don't know whether they're going to be able to get new tires on this car and get them out enough time to put a fast lap down.
Well, they're putting fronts on for sure. It looks like they've got rears laid out.
You'll do the whole thing. There's no way you're going to go just fronts. If you're going to change tires, you're going to change tires. Fraser's in. That team's going to have to. I can't see it happening. 5 minutes and 24 seconds left. It's a 3-minute outlap around this racetrack.
The only advantage you have to coming this late with stickers would be the timeline location. You're at the timeline location is in 12, or in 14 rather than at start finish.
Yeah, true enough. And to be honest, if he gets back around in time, he may get one magic lap in, and that will be a scuff set of tires he could run in the race. His times for the opening session, strong, a 2:10.923. He went about 3 or 4 tenths of a second quicker than he did in practice this morning, Eric, so I'm sure they're pretty happy with the car right now. Fraser would love the pole, but a front row start would work. I just don't know that pitting this late is going to allow him an opportunity to potentially capitalize on those tires. He's the only driver in pit lane right now, Billy Fraser. P2. Chase Denmark on top with a 210.850. Fraser 210.923. The only two drivers who have broke that 211 mark. Rowe across the line with a 211.161. D'Orlando's now gone to P1. Michael D'Orlando the top by a full tenth of a second. 210.743. Your point leader. Loves this racetrack, and he and I talked about this after winning at the Oval. He said, this is big for me because I love Road America, one of my favorite racetracks. So he's coming off that strong run, second in Indianapolis in race number 3 rather, wins the Oval, and now comes to a track that he loves with a full head of steam and the point lead. This could be big for D'Orlando if he's able to grab pole for race 1.
And I think more than anything that race win and the double podium at IMS, really 3 top 5s at IMS, really kind of turned that season back around for him. And again, a confidence boost. We talk about how the team's kind of gelling a little bit. The win kind of gives you self-confidence, but it gives you confidence in the team, in you. And that's going to be critical here moving through the latter half of the season here.
D'Orlando to P1, Denmark still second. Fraser back out onto the racetrack, and crucial for him is whether he gets to the timing line, as Eric had said before. There's an opportunity to get maybe 2 or 3 laps in. We'll see if he's able to pull the trigger on that. Just over 3 minutes remaining here. He may get 2 laps. D'Orlando on top by a tenth. Denmark second, Fraser in third. Rowe, Burke, and Garg, the fast 6. Jackson Lee up into 7th. Jagger Jones 8th, Nikita Johnson 9th, and Thomas Naveau, winner last year, in 10th spot. Jorge Garcia's 11th, Joey Brienza in 12th, Christian Weir and Spike Kohlbecker for turn 3, 13th and 14th, Danny Dzelski in 15th, Dylan Christie 16th, Nick D'Orlando 17th, Jacob Douglas 18th, Nicky Hayes, Ivagoras Papasavas, and Victor Anderson rounding out the 21 drivers. Right now, less than 2 seconds separate the entire field. Time winding down, 2.5 minutes remaining.
Well, one of the things is, the general consensus tells us, what do? We put stickers on, we put a heat cycle in them. They're going to harden up a little bit, and scuffs. Maybe they are scuffing a set, for race 2.
Fraser just crossed the line with 2 minutes and 22 seconds to go. He'll get this lap and likely another one as well. So Billy Fraser's going to get 2 laps, and he actually may be the last guy to come across to get the checkered flag to end this session. Potential that Billy Fraser may have gone off the racetrack before coming into pit lane. So probably pushing really hard at the end of a stint, maybe to try to find that little bit and drop the wheel. So back into pit lane, made the change as we said. Fraser P3 right now, 210.923, less than 2/10 off of D'Orlando. Potentially lining up for 2 laps. Is it enough? That's the key. Will it be enough for him to be able to get that lap on lap number 2 at speed? D'Orlando 210.7.
Well, here's the other concern. If he went off, did he flat spot anything in a spin, anything like that?
I think it was before, not afterwards.
But
those tires,
but those tires wise, if you've got to run those tires, if that was a sticker set to start qualifying, and what gave him pace earlier, now he's got a set that's potentially got a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, exactly that. We'll see how that plays out. We know that he has the speed to run in the top 5. He's been top 3 throughout the last 2 days. He was very quick during yesterday's open test sessions as well, and has just been right at the pointy end of the grid. So Fraser, a driver we're watching, but Michael D'Orlando in the number 4, point leader, coming off the victory at Indianapolis Raceway Park on the Oval, back-to-back wins in the Freedom 75. K Motorsports, the lead driver right now at 210.743. The bonus point for being up front would be big for him as well. D'Orlando, Denmark, Fraser, Rowe, Jones. As Jagger Jones jumps his way now up into 5th ahead of Nikita Johnson, who's gone to 6th. 14 years old, his USF2000 debut. One of the front runners in our USF Juniors program with VRD Racing. Nikita Johnson out of Florida, 6th spot. Pretty solid debut. He was the top driver in the second test session yesterday. Denmark goes quicker. He is, he does not go quicker. Still a 110 or 210.8. No one going faster.
Sun's starting to kind of peek out behind the clouds as well here, but time has wound down.
Yeah, checkered flag
is out.
Yeah, this is it. Dylan Christie up to 5th. Joey Brienza into the top 10. Does Billy Fraser have anything on this lap to potentially move his way up at least a spot? Right now, an inside row 2 starting spot alongside row. D'Orlando, though, holding the top spot. 210.743, everybody on this final circuit. Again, this racetrack's so big, sun peeking out on some parts of the racetrack, it's shadows in other parts with the cloud cover. Jackson Lee, 11th. Jorge Garcias in 13th. Weir, 15th. Kohlbecker, 16th. D'Orlando, 18th. Douglas, 19th. Papasavasan, 20th. Fraser to the top of the hill in turn number 6, only halfway through the lap. Billy Fraser trying to maximize everything in the Corpay Giltrap exclusive Autosport machine. D'Orlando, though, magic early. 210.743. Trying to get a victory here at Road America. Starting from P1 would definitely put him on the right track. D'Orlando, Denmark, Fraser, Jones, Rowe, top 5. Christie, Johnson, Burke, Gargan, Brienza, top 10. But Eric, a bunch of drivers still coming through. The carousel, the kink, lots of racetracks still to be navigated before they get back to the timing stripe.
You know, the timing stripe again just before the entry to turn 14. Interesting to note, this is the fastest session of the weekend now for this USF2000 Cooper Tires Championship.
Here comes Fraser out through Canada corner through Billy Mitchell Bend. He's probably the driver we're watching right now as Jagger Jones improves up to 4th. P4 for Jones. Fraser trying to complete the lap, not able to do it. But was his best lap a 1:10.882. I think one more lap for him, he may have been able to do something. Ends up being just over a 10th back. Denmark does not go quicker, neither does D'Orlando. So the top 5 have worked their way across the line, and I think that wraps it up for everybody on the racetrack, essentially. Checkered flag has been thrown to end this session. And indeed, Michael D'Orlando, fresh off that victory at Indianapolis Raceway Park, add another bonus point onto the total, a 210.743, 1/10 quicker than Jace Denmark. So D'Orlando and Denmark on the front row for race number 1 tomorrow. Billy Fraser 3rd. Jagger Jones improves up to 4th. Miles Rowe in 5th. And Dylan Christie, a strong run for Dylan for D-Force Racing. He goes P6. Nikita Johnson in his debut, 7th for VRD Racing alongside Joe Dooling Autosport driver Trey Burke. Top 10 rounded out by Bajoy Garg and Joey Brienza. All in all, D'Orlando's got to be super happy, Eric, as he goes P1 with a 210.743.
Absolutely, and the battle for the championship is on. This would be the time for D'Orlando to capitalize. Road, 3rd row starting spot, kind of mired back to potential chaos here at the start, turn 1. It's going to be an interesting race 1.
I'm just looking at the guys up there. You think about the guys in the championship hunt, right? Cream rising to the top. D'Orlando P1. Denmark comes in P5. Fraser's P4. Jones is where? P3. And Rowe is P2. Literally your top 6 drivers are the top 6 on the grid, or top 5 on the grid. That's, again, cream rises to the top. Road America place where the rookies kind of work their way to the forefront, like I said. Burke having a good run here. Joey Brienza, though, top 10 as well for the kid in his 2nd start. Ran 1 race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, doing 1 race here, and he's going to run Portland as well. Just 1 race a weekend to try to keep that rookie status. Not bad for the kid out of Colorado who is running this year in the F1600 Championship Series.
Got to break in some of these new tracks eventually.
So, folks, let's wrap things up here from the USF2000 qualifying session for race number 1. Michael D'Orlando, excellent job to start on the pole position. A 210.743, the fast lap to give him the pole alongside Chase Denmark. Billy Fraser, Jagger Jones, and Miles Rowe rounding out the top 5. 11:45 scheduled start time for this autograph session for USF2000. You can meet these drivers down in the fan zone. And again, we're just about, I want to say, maybe 10 minutes away from the start of Indy Pro 2000. Their qualifying set to go at 11:15. Don't go anywhere. More to come here on Road to Indy TV. Momentum always crucial when it comes to the Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. And the drivers, of course, coming off their oval event at Indianapolis Raceway Park just a couple of weeks ago, the Carb Night Classic. And we've already seen in qualifying in USF2000 that the winner there, Michael D'Orlando, picking up where he left off, qualifying on the pole position for the USF category. Will we see the same thing out of Louis Foster, the exclusive Autosport driver, the British pilot, scoring the win in the Freedom 90 in his first ever oval race? Can he hold that momentum through to qualifying here for race number 1 of the Indy Pro 2000 Championship, presented by Cooper Tires and the Cooper Tires Grand Prix of Road America, powered by Elite Engines? Hello to those of you tuning in on the Road to Indy TV app, or on the Road to Indy TV YouTube channel, or on IndyPro2000.com. If you're not here, Eric Mueller, I guess the only question will be why not? You should be here. My name's Rob Howden, the voice of Road America. Eric Mueller joining us. And again, this place is packed, camping sold out. No better place to watch an IndyCar race or the Road to Indy than Road America.
I mean, if you're not really interested in race cars, you just come here for the food. I mean,
true. That's very true.
But you're here for the race cars. We all know you are. And Braden Eves, quickest in the first practice session of the day at 2:5:41 is kind of the number we kind of dialed in, and
yep.
We're looking to see where everyone else stacks up to that here for qualifying. Obviously, strategy going to play into when you bolt the stickers on. Do you kind of go out with scuffs, bolt the stickers on at the end? We saw it happen at the end of the qualifying session for USF 2000, and just couldn't. Brendan Fraser just couldn't quite get it done. But in that situation, you talk about the way that the session played out. It went green all the way through. Everyone was able to maximize their on-track time. We look for much the same here for Indy Pro.
And we'll see the times fall down. We saw the drivers essentially go from where they were, the 2:11.1, 2:11.2 down into a 2:10. I expect we're going to see lap times potentially in the high 2:05s here, or 2:04s rather. 2:05.416 was the time from practice this morning for Braden Eves from Jay Howard Driver Development. But all told, 16 drivers set to go here in Indy Pro 2000. The car is about 5 to 6 seconds faster than what we see in USF 2000, a very calculated performance enhancement moving from each category. Then, of course, from Indy Pro 2000, a very similar 6-second improvement moving into Indy Lights, which we'll see on the racetrack for their practice session at 3:30 this afternoon. We got ourselves a pretty good championship right here, right now. Louis Foster, as we said, coming off 2 big wins. In fact, he's been the driver to beat over the last 2 races. He had an interesting up and down weekend on the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, did Louis Foster. Opening race, he ends up starting on the outside of the front row, ends up almost taking the lead, but then getting contact to take him out of the race in turn number 2. Went on the attack to try to get by his teammate Jack William Miller in race number 2, and got into him and ended up getting a DNF. But then fired back and was able to get that elusive first win, Eric, in race number 3. Turned that into the momentum to be able to win the Freedom 90 at Indianapolis Raceway Park. So back-to-back wins for him. But it's been, other than those issues at Indianapolis, an incredibly consistent season so far.
Well, you talk about starting position is for sure hasn't started worse than 6th on the season. So first 3 rows start critical here. We talked in the qualifying session earlier today of how important it is to be in the first 2, maybe 3 rows here. You don't want to get mired back in the chaos that gets created by a 3 or 4 wide start. This racetrack incredibly wide on the entry to turn 1, and it narrows very quickly. It's a good place to get in trouble quickly. Yeah,
there's obviously some runoff on the outside there, but you don't want to go all the way off on that runoff. We've seen drivers get pinched down. We've seen contact there. The opening couple of corners so crucial, especially get down into 3 and then getting on the rundown into turn number 5. If we talk strategy for what we'll expect to see here in this session, I think we're going to see guys coming in probably anywhere between 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes potentially into the session. Get out there, see how this. You've made obviously chassis changes from practice this morning. You asked a little bit more from the car. The drivers have given you the feedback. Maybe a couple of minor adjustments. Get a feel for what that's done. Bolt on some fresh Coopers and go out and see if you can't put this thing on the pole position, because as we said, starting up front crucial. Anywhere in the first couple of rows, I think you're right. You find yourself deeper into the top 10, you're holding your breath on the way down to turn number 1 and hoping to find maybe some open area to get through if chaos does ensue.
absolutely. And you take a look at the track temperature right now, 75 degrees ambient, 88 degrees. So it's about 4 degrees warmer now than in the USF2000 qualifying session just about 20, 30 minutes ago. So it's gone up 4 degrees. The sun's out right now here in the main straightaway, of course, where that diagnostic is taken here on pit lane, right across from start finish in our broadcast position. But the track temperature coming up, we talk an awful lot about these Cooper tires, of how you really need to get them slowly into the heat cycle and get them warmed up to the point where they've got optimum grip. And the track temperature coming up in temperature kind of helps that process along a little bit.
Yeah, and again, that's the one of the variables that the engineers are thinking about when they're sitting down. What are we going to do here right now? We're on track at this particular time. What kind of temperature are we going to find? Significantly different from yesterday. Of course, it rained on Wednesday significantly, which cleared the track up for us. So only our rubber really going down yesterday, and the rubber from the drivers in the Radical Cup program as well. So again, this track continually changing, and it will as soon as IndyCar gets out here. When these drivers get back on the track on Saturday morning, it'll be drastically different to what they have here today. Second lap's kind of going in the books. Now we can jump and look at some times. They've got some heat built into these Coopers, and Louis Foster to the top of the charts right now with a 204.831. Reese Gold back by about 0.2 of a second at 205.073. Wyatt Prokacek up into the third spot. Remember, he had some transponder issues in practice. They've got that dialed in, a 205.092 for Prokacek. Jack William Miller in the fourth position. Colin Kaminsky in fifth. Anam Ahmed runs sixth. Josh Green seventh. Jordan Missick eighth. Kiko Porto ninth, and Nolan Siegel starting things off in 10th. Very early. First driver in, the number 90, Louis Foster. Going to get in, get those tires off, get some fresh Coopers on quickly. In contrast to what we saw from his teammate Billy Frazier, who came in with about, maybe 6 minutes to go and didn't get maybe enough laps at the end. Foster in early. They're now messing around. They're going to put fresh rubber on that car.
Jack William Miller in the 40 machine also in on pit lane, making the tire change. They've got tires splayed out as well.
So there's a connection. Last year, Jack William Miller, his own team, Miller Vinatieri Motorsport, started the season off like that. They actually have a technical partnership with Exclusive Autosport, Eric, that started at the Grand Prix Indianapolis. So it's now Miller Vinatieri Motorsports with Exclusive Autosport. He spent some time in the engineering room with Louis and the team there and the engineering staff, and that's really paid off for Jack William Miller so far.
And one of the things that you can ill afford, in these shorter sessions, obviously 20 minutes of green flag time, 30 minutes for the qualifying session itself. We've only got 12 minutes. We're about 8 minutes in now, so 12 minutes left in the session. This is the time we're going to start to see some of that heat transition for some of the cars, maybe running some scuffs to start the session, where they're going to come in here. Miller slowly leaving the pit stall. Looks like they've got some issues on pit lane. Not quite sure what's going on, but that pit stop did not look very seamless, unfortunately, during this qualifying session. As Reese Gold goes to P1 now, a 204.77.
I'll tell you what's happening here right now in pit lane. You guys can't see it from your vantage point, but Louis Foster, they're getting him buttoned up. They're not done with the pit stop by Louis Foster yet. Miller's not going out till he has Foster with him. Those are the two teammates right now, so he's going to want to work together with him. So Miller just biding his time. They're trying to figure out what's going on here with, actually, I think they're still just finishing up the tires for Louis Foster. So yeah, he'll just wait. Those teammates will roll out together. Gold to P1, as you had said, and here he comes into pit lane as well with his teammate Anam Ahmed. So Hunko's Hollinger Racing already into pit lane. They do so from first and fifth. Reese Gold, 204.772, fastest driver so far by a half a tenth over Foster. Anam Ahmed, the Englishman out of London, who runs under the Pakistani flag, his native country, in the number 47. He's P5 at 205.194, about 4 tenths back. So call it a full pit lane right now, because here comes everybody. Gold, Foster, Prokacek 1, 2, 3, Miller, Ahmed, and Colin Kaminsky. That's your top six, all in pit lane. Josh Green from 8th in pit lane. Kiko Porto, 10th pit lane. Here comes Charles Finelli, as well as Yuvan Sundaramurli and Lindsey Brewer. So Jonathan Brown into wholesale changes. Everybody coming in for fresh rubber.
So the interesting thing to note here is Miller actually has now left his pit stall. Everybody else is on pit lane. Now there's a much cleaner racetrack out ahead. So as the track temperature's gone up another couple of tenths of a degree here just in the last 5 minutes. You've got Gold, Foster, Prokopchuk all on pit lane. Ahmed Kaminsky as well as Josh Green on pit lane as well. Kiko Porter's on pit lane. So you've only got 4 or 5 cars on race course right now. So there's plenty of free space, but you lose the tow capability.
Here's the other thing I'm always worried about. As Louis Foster just left pit lane. When you go out first and there's lots of guys, a bunch of guys out behind you, you get up to speed, you're really always worried about somebody coming out, warming their tires up and impeding a fast lap for you, right? That's one thing I always worry about when somebody comes in pits early and then goes back out, that everybody else is going to roll out there and cruise around, try to bring the tires up to temp, and you maybe just get to that sweet spot and have to check up. And the problem is, race control's got lots of cameras, and if you impede another driver on their fast lap, you're definitely going to get a penalty. We've seen that happen numerous times throughout the season. You have to be cognizant of those around you when you roll back out of the track for qualifying, as we're past the halfway point. You already mentioned it, less than 9 minutes remaining.
You take a look at all the race winners this season here in Indy Pro 2000. Only one driver with a race win has started outside the first 2 rows.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the anomaly race at Indianapolis, that first round at the Indianapolis Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, Salvador de Alba ended up getting that victory, starting deep in the field, as you had said. That was the lap, the issue where we had the wreck kind of in the opening lap. Jonathan Brown got into Louis Foster. Louis Foster came across the track. His teammate had nowhere to go. Gold went off. Miller hit him, was up on top of. We lost 4 cars. Allowed de Alba to get up front pretty quickly, but he had a great run and ended up scored that race win.
But you always talk about controlled chaos a little bit at the start, and that's one of those where that's an uncontrolled chaos. You're kind of a victim of circumstance in a lot of those situations. But how critically important it is to start in the first 2 rows here in Indy Pro, just because of how much tighter the competition window is.
Oh my goodness, we see great competition in USF2000, but then you move, as you go up the pyramid, it gets a little tighter to the top, and you have a couple less drivers. We have 16 in the field here, and they're just, the guys up front are all accomplished. Gold's a USF2000 winner. You look at Ahmed, who was a British F3 champion. Foster running in the Euro Formula Open Series. Siegel and Green, all USF2000 race winners. So Kiko Porto, champion from last year in USF2000. So again, it gets tougher and tougher. Everybody back on the racetrack up front at this point. Gold, the only driver to roll off here still. He and Ahmed getting ready to fire up. Prokopchuk across the line. Here comes Colin Kaminsky in the 27. There's the 90 of Louis Foster. That's a new camera angle. I like that one.
Head on into turn 1. Kind of an interesting look down at speed. Interesting to note, one car has not taken a time here, and I can't say that I recall seeing the car come through, but even sooner Murthy out of Delafield, Wisconsin for Pabst Racing has not taken a time yet.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye whether or not it's a transponder issue, and I don't see him on pit lane right now. And it's not sure what's going on here with Yuvan Sundaramurthy. We will keep an eye to see whether he's on the racetrack or not. But indeed, as Eric had said, in a good pickup, yeah, looking like he just came across the line to put a time in. I wonder if he made it potentially just sat out the first little bit.
Well, in this situation, you get about 6.5 minutes. You figure 2-3 laps, tires are up to temperature on the flyer right as everybody else is coming in from having 5 or 6 laps on their tires.
Kiko Porter working his way down the front straightaway, the reigning Cooper Tires USF2000 championship. The Brazilian running for D-Force Racing in those Road to Indy scholarship colors. Of course, won the championship, took the scholarship money, moved up into Indy Pro 2000, again hanging with D-Force Racing, the team that engineered him to the championship last year. A very exciting championship for Kiko. Currently sitting in the 10th position. Reese Gold on top, 204.772. 5.5 minutes remaining. And get ready to go. Being told by Diane Swintel, electrical issues for Yuvan Sundaramurthy earlier in the session, so able to get that buttoned up and get him back on the racetrack. So need not a planned wait to get back on track, but they'll be able to put the fresh tires on him, and like everybody else, getting this essentially 6.5 minute run to the end.
Now, of course, we saw USF 2000 earlier, Indy Pro 2000. I know we've got a lot of really knowledgeable fans on the Road to Indy TV, but some fans here at Road America may not be familiar with the series. Maybe it's their first time here at Road America. What's the difference really between these 2 cars?
Interesting, because the base car itself is the same. The Tatis chassis is the same. We have a we did an update kit this year, so we have the halo on both the USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000 cars. It's a new center section. The tub section of the car is from Tatis. It's the same for both the cars. Everything else is just more. We go from 170 horsepower up into 250 horsepower. The tires are bigger, so obviously more grip. The brakes are bigger, so more braking. More aerodynamic downforce as well. The front and rear wings are larger, so just more of everything. More acceleration, more braking, more side load, more aerodynamics, and that, of course, translates into about 6 seconds here on track. Remember, we had times down into the high 210s. Now we're at 2:04.7, so about 6 seconds the difference between USF2000 and Indy Pro. And people say, do we need all the levels of the program? We have USF Juniors now, and that'll be the same chassis next year as well with a restricted engine. We have USF2000. You think about that. Between USF2000 and Indy Lights, it's about 12 seconds at this racetrack. That's a lot. So the jump between USF2000 and the Indy Pro and then Indy Lights, very calculated in terms of performance, providing every one of those drivers with more of everything to handle when they move up a step.
And a lot of folks say, why do we really need the full ladder system in the road to Indy? Look at the NTT IndyCar Series right now and the graduates of this program. That's why it's important.
It works. Number one, it works. Back in layman's terms, it'd be like hopping out of your regular everyday grocery getter and jumping into a Ferrari. You know, it's such a huge jump in performance going from USF2000 into Indy Pro. You're talking 170 horsepower to 450 in Indy Lights with the push to pass and all that aerodynamics. Drivers have done it. It's incredibly difficult to be able to make that big jump. 3.5 minutes remaining, and Reese Gold still on top, but not by much. 0.059, although he just laid down a smoking lap. Here's the drivers coming in to put the big lap in here on the Coopers. And not only is it about the tires coming up to temperature, Eric, to get a fast lap in qualifying, everything has to come together. You only have so much fuel in the car, right? So it's getting lighter and lighter with every lap. You want it, now the tires to hit their absolute optimum lap with the right pressures, the car being as light as possible, the drivers having open racetrack, and then the driver delivering. And so far, Reese Gold showing it. In fact, Juncos Hollinger Racing 1-2 right now. A 2:04.335 for Reese Gold, a 2:04.804 for Anam Ahmed. Still Gold, though, 4/10 quicker than his teammate Ahmed. Foster third, Braden Eves, who's quickest in practice, up to fourth, and his teammate at J. Howard Driver Development, Salvador de Alba, rounding out the top five.
You know, and times are kind of settling in exactly where we kind of expected them to be. Track temperature's gone up another couple of tenths of a degree. Ambient temperature's gone up 2 degrees in the last 10 minutes.
Now you're watching that.
So for me, the science of it, we talked earlier about the championship kind of being like that 5-pound weight. But qualifying is just as important, especially with that P1 position.
Yeah, bonus point involved in it as well. When you get down to a championship battle, I think back to Jack Harvey versus Gabby Chavez, I think it was 2014, and they tied for points. They both had the same amount of wins. It went down to second place finishes for Gabby to win the championship, and all it would have taken was one more pole position, right? One more pole, one more bonus point, and he would have been, Jack Harvey could have been the champion over Gabby Chavez. So, indeed, every point is crucial, and Reese Gold right now going after that point right now. As he's back right now, Reese Gold by only 14 points behind Louis Foster, this championship fight. This is going to be exciting all the way to the finale at Portland on Labor Day weekend.
And you really expect the duel at front. I mean, the quality of driving this season, obviously there's a couple anomalies, but it's always the nature of some of the race courses. But Reese Gold again goes even faster.
Wow.
2:04.31 on these Coopers. Definitely up to temperature. Final minute here in this qualifying session for Indy Pro 2000.
Reese Gold, I believe, get a big toe up the straightaway as well. Reese is looking really good here right now. 2:04.3. Ahmed 2:04.8. He's just a bit, maybe 300ths ahead of Louis Foster now. There's the number 93, the mastermind machine of Lindsey Brewer, currently sits 15th. 2:07.110 fast lap for Lindsey right now, P15. Sooner Murley's been able to get a couple laps in, 2:06.4. He is 14th. But it's Gold, Ahmed, Foster, Eves, and Green, your top five. De Alba 6th, Kaminsky 7th, Prokopchik 8th, Missing in 9th, and Jack William Miller 10th. And this is it. This will be the final circuit as checkered flag will fly momentarily. Ahmed's in pit lane. Yeah, he's done P2 for Anam Ahmed. Checkered flag is going to be shown at the alternate timing line as everybody works their way back around. You can see a number of them coming up under the Corvette bridge through turn number 6. Ahmed, the best he's going to do is P2, 2:04.801. Very impressive for Reese Gold. Qualified on the pole on the oval at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Finished second once again, and here he is, potentially going for another pole position here now. Be his third of the year. Qualified on the pole at Barber Motorsports Park for race 1 as well. Gold, Ahmed, Foster, Eves, Green. Final couple of corners for these drivers working their way through the kink here now, down to the kettle bottoms. Open racetrack key. Lindsey Brewer getting out of the way for the number 8 of Nolan Siegel.
Which is not as easy as it looks with these small mirrors.
No, it's not at all. And there's no spotters down there to help you either. Louis Foster across the line. He does not go any quicker. Is not able to get ahead of Anam Ahmed. So it could be a Juncos Hollinger front row lockout. The team that we'll see with Callum Ilott back with them in the NTT IndyCar Series. Ricardo Juncos and Juncos Hollinger Racing. Their Indy Pro 2000 program has scored championships with guys like Rinus VK, who have worked their way up through the ranks. Gold, Ahmed, P1, P2, a Juncos Hollinger Racing front row lockout for race number 1. Of course, they'll qualify again tomorrow morning. Louis Foster ends up P3, Braden Eves in 4th. Josh Green and Salvador de Alba 5th and 6th. Colin Kaminsky and Wyatt Prokachik 7th and 8th. And Jordan Missick and Jack William Miller rounding out the top 10. Man, if you're Juncos Hollinger, you're sleeping well tonight, knowing you got a couple of hot rods, a couple of bullets in the gun to try to get some wins here at Road America.
Absolutely. And the critical thing is going to be what the team strategy is going to be. Who gets to turn 1? You're going to kind of slow the inside line down, let the outside go around.
Right.
You got to do it the long way around if you're Ahmed now from the outside of the front row. But there is a look at your unofficial results here in Q1. Gold, Ahmed, Foster, Eves, and Green. Your top 5 for Indy Pro 2000 presented by Cooper Tires here at the Cooper Tires Grand Prix Road America, powered by Elite Engines.
Salvador de Alba for J. Howard Driver Development ends up in 6th. Colin Kaminsky in 7th. Wyatt Prokachik 8th. Jordan Missick 9th. And Jack William Miller in 10th. We're not quite done yet with our Road to Indy competition for the day. Actually, 8 minutes from now, we'll have our USF2000 autograph session, Eric, over in the fan zone. And then one more on-track session as well. USF2000 will qualify for race number 2 this afternoon at 1:30. We'll have a qualifier tomorrow for Indy Pro 2000. 2 USF 2000 races tomorrow, 1 Indy Pro 2000 race, so lots of action, lots of wheel-to-wheel racing in the Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. Of course, the action in Indy Lights as well, and then Indy Pro 2000 will cap off their Road America weekend early on Sunday morning. But still Indy Lights racing to come as well. This Road to Indy producing some tremendous drivers who have worked their way into the NTT IndyCar Series. We got so many more in the pipeline, too, the future stars of that program here in the Road to Indy. We'll wrap things up here, folks. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Road to Indy TV app or on the Road to Indy TV YouTube channel or IndyPro2000.com. Thank you so much for tuning in again. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.